In this video, I'm going to show you my step-by-step process, method, recipe, whatever you want to call it, for getting the absolute best fajitas. I'm going to call them weeknight fajitas because generally I will do these in the week because you do all the prep in the day or a couple of days before. And once you get the prep out of the way, they're really quick to pull together and they're delicious. So let's make them up. So the first thing we're going to do is make some homemade, fresh flour, butter flavored tortillas. And these are going to be the best tortillas you've ever had. But of course, I'm not making tortillas every single week. So I'm going to make up a big batch. They freeze really well. They reheat really well. Full recipe will be in the description below, obviously, but we're going to go in with some bread flour, some salt, baking powder, milk powder, and your fat of choice. I'm going for butter flavored Crisco. And we're just going to get in with our hands and turn this into a bit of a sandy texture. Break all your fat up, mix it in with your flour, make sure there's no huge lumps. And once that's done, I've got about a cup of water here, which today turned out to be 207 grams. So this is nice warm water, and we're just going to go in and add a little bit at a time, start to form it into a nice dough, squeezing it all together a little bit more. Looking quite sticky at the moment, but it should come together. And after literally about 2 minutes of mixing, the hands are clean. It's kind of holding together into a little ball. So I'm just gonna let this rest here for about 10 minutes. 5-10 minutes later or something like that, I'm gonna give this one final little knead, and you can probably see that it's smoothed up nicely, apart from these little folds in there. And I'm gonna leave it for 5 more minutes. It's not quite as smooth on the surface as I'd want it, so come back. So another 5-10 minutes later, this is probably pretty good. Take it out. We're gonna start weighing this up into about 40 to 45 gram balls. Let's go 45. And then we're simply just gonna roll it up into a little ball, nice and smooth. And I like to pop these into a little Ziploc bag, just keep going. And once all these are done, I like to let them hang out in a Ziploc for a minimum of an hour, really gonna be 2 hours. And if you wanna go overnight, put them in the fridge. We want them to be nice and relaxed when we come to rolling them out. And next up, we're gonna make a really easy, delicious, and super quick salsa that's gonna go perfect with these fajitas. And we're gonna do that by starting off with some tomatoes. And I'm using my Wilson's Barbecue branded Savanac knife. Absolutely incredible knives, handmade here in the UK. I'm gonna cut these up into quarters and put them into this little pot that I've got next to me. Then we're gonna go in with 1 green and 1 red chili, just because that's what I had. I'm gonna take the seeds and the membrane out. Chili's going in. And then I'm gonna go in with half a white onion. So tomatoes, chilies, and onion into a pot. Just covered those in water, and these are gonna go onto the hob and boil for around 10 minutes. And you could absolutely fire these off in the barbecue. In fact, I usually do, but this is a method that I take when I'm trying to keep things real simple and real quick. And I don't plan on lighting the barbecue for a little while yet, so I'm just going with the boil method. So 10 minutes of boiling time later, this veg is nicely softened up. We're gonna get all of this stuff into my NutriBullet, and the skins of the tomatoes and the chilies will have softened up enough for you to take them off. Personally, I don't bother. We're gonna whiz this up pretty heavily and you won't even notice it. Would have been a lot quicker if I just strained this out. So to that, we are gonna add some chipotles in adobo sauce. For the guys in the UK, I'll put a link below where you can buy these. This is gonna bring a little heat, a little sweetness, some nice acidity, some nice smoky flavor. So I'm gonna go in with 4 of those for now. That's probably enough. Gonna go in with a handful of coriander or cilantro, a nice squeeze of lime juice, a big pinch of salt, and that is looking really good. We're gonna blitz this up. Those chipotles have given it a real nice smoky smell. Let's give it a taste. Nice, got some heat to it. Needs a little more brightness. Gonna go in with a little bit more lime juice. And it's already at the consistency that I want, so I'm not gonna blend it a second time. That is very good. So when it comes to steak for weeknight tacos, I'm personally going for a flank steak. It's lean, it can be pretty tough, but it is generally pretty cheap. And there are some things that you can do to get this more tender, like a long marinade and some other more scientific methods. But for me, as long as you cook it right, should be fine. So this is about 900 grams of flank steak from John Davidson's online butcher. And it's actually got some nice intramuscular fat going on in this, so that's pretty cool. And as I say, you can do a wet marinade on this, and that's probably a bit more common. But for me, I like to keep this really simple, and I'm often trying to do this in a real low effort way. So I like to go on with an appropriate dry rub and let it hang out in the fridge for a little while. And again, in terms of the seasoning, I keep it real simple. And this is one of the few times that I reach for a pre-made rub. And for these, I like to use the Fire and Smoke Society charred chili and lime. This is surprisingly good. It's got some chili, some lime, some garlic, all the things that you'd expect in a fajita. Good amount of salt as well. So I'm gonna get this on. You can of course make up your own rub with salt, pepper, cumin, garlic, onion powder, paprika, cayenne, all that kind of stuff. But I'm trying to keep this real easy. So we're gonna let that hang out in the fridge for about 6 hours. You could go longer, you could go shorter. You could put it on right before you cook it. For me, 6 hours is about good because I like to do this throughout the day while I'm doing other things. Back into the fridge for about 6 hours. So our tortilla dough has been resting for a good couple of hours. It's nice and relaxed. I've got my tortilla warmer here. I've got a little bit of kitchen paper in there to make sure no condensation forms and makes the tortilla soggy. And I have a pan just here on medium-high heat. Get some of our bread flour onto the deck. Take one of our tortilla dough balls and just go down and flatten it out. And the idea here is to make this as thin as possible. That's just how I like them. Dust it off a little bit. Dust up the rolling pin, roll it out, turn it over with a quarter turn, roll, quarter turn and flip over. And then we're just gonna roll this out as thin as we possibly can. Almost to the point where they're see-through. Got our tortilla nice and thin, really silky, almost see-through. Go into our medium high heat pan and pretty quickly this will start bubbling up. And after a couple of seconds, just give it a flip. Looking good. And just like that, the first cook is done. This is gonna go into my tortilla warmer where it will continue to carry over a little bit and they can just rest in there until I do a final little cook up later. And just like that, we've got a big pile of fluffy, soft flour tortillas. These are gonna be better than anything you can buy in the store, especially here in the UK. You cannot get better than homemade tortillas. These are so soft, slightly chewy, got a great saltiness to them. And yeah, definitely give these a go. As you can probably imagine, we're gonna get some onions and some peppers prepped up for these fajitas. Gonna hit this with a little bit of salt, and that's just gonna help draw some of that water moisture out there. Season them a little bit, mostly, and hopefully keep them a little bit crunchy and prevent them from going soggy. In fact, I might hit them with the charred chili and lime rub as well. Just a little bit. These can hang out for a little bit. So, full disclosure, I had to abandon everything I already did in this video. That was actually about a week ago. I'm not gonna go into the details. I'm not gonna mention any names, but pretty much had to do everything again other than the tortillas because I already made those and they freeze great, so I just pulled them out of the freezer today. So we'll just carry on. So we dumped our charcoal into the PK, and to cook our veggies we're going to use this perforated pan. This is just how I like to do it. Get a little bit of smoke, some charcoal flavour onto the veg, let that get nice and hot, and after a few minutes we're going to go in with our peppers and our onions. Hear them crackling, get some colour on them. I also chucked a little bit of oil onto these. That's what we want. Ooh, hello. There's a little flame there. Make use of that. I like a pretty heavy char on my peppers and onions. So no more than 10 minutes later, these veggies are done. These can just head off to the side. And I want to show you my new little tool that I use when I'm cooking steaks recently. This is a little hand air blower thing from ProSmoke, and it is insane. If I want to get these coals fired up and get them real hot before I want to sear a steak, get that absolutely ripping just in time for our flank steak. And we want to get a real hard sear on this. We want to bring this up to about 125 Fahrenheit internal and let it rest up to about 135 absolute max. And it's not going to take very long to do that. So the time that we do have, we want to get the maximum amount of crust. Give it a flip. Oh yeah. About 5 minutes later, that is done. 130 Fahrenheit internal. Let's take it inside. So I like to cut these into fajita sized strips. So the grain on this flank steak goes this way, so we want to cut against that. So we want to cut this way, and we're going to have fajita strips that are pretty long if I do it like that. So I'm going to cut this bad boy in half first. Oh yeah, looking good. And then we're going to go against the grain to get these perfect little fajita sized strips. I'm going to cut these nice and thin. Nice crust, medium rare. Let all those resting juices go on. That is looking good. Couple of butter flavored tortillas, and you've got yourself some perfect fajitas. Let's make one up. So we've got our beautiful homemade tortillas, flank steak. I'm going in pretty heavy on that. Peppers, some onions, and we obviously can't forget our salsa, entirely homemade with chipotle chilies. I cannot wait to eat that. That is looking insane. Let's get into it. That is absolutely outrageous. It always is. I really hope this video didn't come across like this was a lot of work, because it's really not. Aside from making the tortillas, which you can do in bulk like I do and freeze them, just take them out as you need them, it really wasn't that much work. Once I was ready to go, it came together in about 15 minutes. Perfect cook on that. Nice and tender, juicy, salty. I really do love that salsa. It's so simple, so easy. And I really do love that fire and smoke chili and lime rub. Works perfect for fajitas. For fajitas. And obviously I imagine there'll be comments about how I should have marinated this, and these may be not traditional fajitas, but I'm just showing you how I do it midweek, every week pretty much. And it always comes out good. Still a nice crunch, but tender, and you cannot beat doing the fajitas over charcoal. You just cannot beat that flavor. And that Chipotle salsa is delicious, super easy. Better than any salsa you're gonna buy in the shop, at least here in the UK. Definitely recommend picking up some Chipotle chilies, canned Chipotles in adobo. Maybe one more. I feel quite lucky that it's just me eating this today. The chilies in the salsa definitely catch up on you after a while. So that's pretty much it. That's how I make fajitas. They're so easy to do. Honestly, not that much more difficult than an old El Paso kit. So please let me know if this inspired you to make fajitas, whether it be this recipe or just making up your own. I'd love to know about it. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It really, really does help me out. And I'll see you next week for another video.